Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cold North podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. He is Michael Panduro, a Danish music video director who has done some crazy videos for Napalm, Death, Saint Vito's, Job For A Cowboy, Cephalic, Carnage, among others. He's also done short movies and a bunch of commercial stuff as well. He's kind of known for having quite a visceral approach to making short films and music videos, and we're probably in like more horror, gory genre. He's got a bunch of awards, and also he's made it to a lot of top lists about, most horrific, not horrific, but most like intense horror music videos that ever has been made. So it's a pleasure to talk to him. I don't think a lot of people these days know about him, but they should. So let's get into talking with Michael Panduro. What's up, Michael? Thank you for being with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's great. How are you? How are you doing these days?
I'm good. Thank you. Very much out of the music video business for now. but
yeah, you wrote that to me.
Talk about. Yeah, I haven't. I think the last one I did was right at the beginning of the epidemic. So 2020 or something. It's probably the last one. And it's not been a lot before that. I've only made a couple every other year or so.
Is that intentional, or have you been busy with other stuff?
It kind of is. For me, music videos has always been like a playground and a training ground. My passion, so to speak, is fiction work. So I kind of use music videos to test out equipment and ideas and techniques and so on, with the intention of using that for other projects, basically.
Wow.
So my focus is on fiction work right now.
Okay. So, but I can see that is your main focus, because the way I see those music videos is more like short films than anything else. Because there's not really a lot of like band performance in them. It's mostly like a kind of a simple storyline, and some really intense shots.
Yeah.
Is that correct in how you approach it as well?
It is very much. It's kind of it's a situation that arose on its own in a way, because I very quickly ended up doing music videos for bands that weren't local to me. And just, the small budgets you're working on, most of the time it wouldn't make sense to fly people in to do a performance part or something like that. But plus the fact that I wanted to do more narrative stuff, and it also, a bonus with doing it that way is that you don't have the band breathing down your neck.
Yeah.
They're not there doing the shoot, and they kind of buy into the concept of them, putting their trust in me. So it's been very liberating working on most of the music videos I've done, in the sense that we've pretty much been able to do what we wanted to, in most of them anyway.
If we kind of like go back to the beginning, and then we'll kind of make a thread all the way to where you are now. So one of the first ones, let's start before that. How did you even get into like heavier music, and especially like filming and directing and so forth?
I've always been into heavy music since I was a kid, basically. And about 20 years ago, there was a shift for me. I was working at a record store, and I got exposed to a lot of more extreme heavy music. I grew up a nu metal kid. Totally, I was a teenager in the mid '90s, and that was the perfect time. So I was very much into that thing when that happened, and then I had my old Metallica tapes and so on from when I was a kid, and then I got exposed to, more extreme stuff. I got into doom metal. I got into grindcore and also experimental noise stuff and stuff like that. And that got me, more interested in smaller bands. And then after I studied at the University of Copenhagen, and we had some practical courses there where we got to do short films and so on. And for one of those, I got in touch with a band I knew, an amazing Danish band called MCIP, who are no longer around, but who were very fun about 20 years ago. And I just asked them, should we do a music videos for you guys as one of our school projects? And the logic in my mind was that if we did a music video, we didn't have to worry about audio,
Okay.
which makes shooting way easier.
Yeah.
And we didn't know shit about audio at that time. So we did that, and I kind of realized, okay, that was kind of fun. And then from there, I did a couple of videos for bands I knew here. There was a Danish band called the Psych Project, who we did a video for as well.
Which one did you do?
I think it's called Panic. It's not exactly a great video.
I can't remember that one, but the Side Project was one of my favorite bands back then.
Just leave it be. Don't.
Okay. I won't dig into it anymore. Well, that's great. That's a pretty extreme band.
I kind of got into it. I thought music were fun to do, and I started realizing there weren't that many local bands that I was into at that time. In my opinion, Denmark didn't exactly have a thriving metal scene at that point. That's thankfully changed since then. So I started writing bands I liked in the US and in Canada and around the world, just asking, we can do it like this for very little money, and it would be fun for us to do. Would you be into it? And that's how I got to do a video for a band called Psyopus. This very techy, amazing band that I'm sorry to say is no longer around either. And also Cephalic Carnage got around that way. That was, back in the MySpace days. It was just writing them and saying, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And they agreed. And once we did that Cephalic Carnage video where we kind of just went balls out, and we were just like, let's just do it really gory and put in some nudity as well, but
yeah,
still have a point to it.
Yeah, for those that don't know, you can't see that on YouTube. You gotta go on Vimeo or Google it.
Yeah,
I'll see it on Michael's.
I think it's on. There was a point in time which was amazing about that Cephalic Carnage video, because I had a friend who actually worked at Google at YouTube, and he told me that the video had been accepted. It was kind of accepted as art.
What?
They allow nudity and bloodshed if there's an artistic expression in it.
Okay.
And he told me at one point it had been like all the way up the ladder, all the way up to the executive branch, and they kind of set the bar and said, so this is the bar, this is as far as we go. But that apparently only lasted a couple of months, because then it was taken down again. It hasn't been up since, as far as I know.
No, it's quite an intense ride, that video. Those that don't know, it's kind of keywords like self-mutilation, lots of blood, lots of guts, and a couple.
A couple.
Yeah, a couple. I won't say anymore.
Spoil it. It's just.
I don't want to spoil it. Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. We did a reaction to it on our Patreon because we couldn't do it on YouTube. So.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I can send it to you afterwards. I think I actually leave the room at one point because I couldn't bear it. Yeah, it was good. But the Cephalic that video, was that after Job For A Cowboy video? The Job For A Cowboy video? Okay.
Job For A Cowboy came after, because Nick, the bassist from Cephalic, is also in Job For A Cowboy.
Oh, okay.
So
that's the connection.
The one who got in touch. And I mean, the Job For A Cowboy videos was basically the most fun we've ever had on a music video shoot. They were so happy with the Cephalic video that they just sent me the whole album, and they were just like, pick a song and do whatever you want to do. And I've never experienced that before or after. I think the only thing they said was boobs are fun. We'd like to have boobs in it.
Okay.
And I didn't deliver on that, so they didn't even get what they wanted. But we went out and we shot basically a short film. It has a long sequence in the middle where there is no music, and I think the video is like 3 or 4 minutes longer than the track. But that was extremely fun, and I was very happy with how that turned out, and it actually got screened at festivals as a short film, not as a music video. So that was, I think, my first step into what I kind of really wanted to do, to be honest. And since then, that opened a lot of doors, and we did it for Metal Blade, and they got in touch afterwards for other projects, and yeah, I think that's probably my calling card nowadays. That's that video, in terms of music videos, anyway.
I guess it's like 11 years ago it was released, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
What? But we had a bit of a budget there, and it was the first time we got to shoot on the Alexa and stuff like that, which was what I wanted to try. So I'm very happy with that and glad we did it.
Was that something you rented out?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. What I think when I saw that video was it was a great example of showing, not telling, in regards to like showing a story, and that's something I enjoy a lot. Like one of my pet peeves is too much exposition, like especially when watching like some kind of blockbuster Hollywood movie. You're almost like force-fed. This is the story. This is what you're supposed to feel. Also with the music, and now I've seen a lot of your work the past few days, and it's kind of like the same like thing. It is you're showing more than you're telling, and you're actually leaving a lot of information out, which kind of gives it a bit more up to interpretation from the viewer, and also trying to figure out what's actually exactly going on. And then you have like these kind of key, point of no returns, like what's going on now, and you don't really know what's happening, and it kind of twists and turns. But there's always some kind of, I would say, kind of mysterious or unworldly, like otherworldly, or like not like fiction kind of twist to most of your videos.
Hopefully. It's I think there's two things to that. One of them is I definitely subscribe to the idea that, and I hate saying this about my own work, but works of art, should pose more questions than deliver answers, in my opinion. And the other thing is that music videos are great mediums for that, because they are very forgiving. The audience is very forgiving. You can basically take the editing rule book and just burn it, because all the rules for editing in terms of fiction, short films, and features and so on don't apply to music videos. People are used to watching music videos as an art form where you can break the 180-degree rule. You can jump from a scene to another and back to a third, and you can do all this stuff very rapidly without people feeling that, if you did that in a feature or something, it would feel awkward, it would feel weird and wrong. But that doesn't apply to music videos, and I think that's one of the great things about doing them is you can really play around.
I really like that way of thinking about it. I also like the way that you're using it as just like a tool to experiment for what you really want to do, but you still end up doing some really cinematic stuff that's more cinematic than most music videos I see these days, even though some of them are a few years back. I think like one of the things I wanted to discuss with you was this whole filmmaking education route versus being autodidact, because I'm an autodidact myself. I've only had a great interest for movies and music videos, and then just like I know what I wanted to do. I just gotta learn the technique of doing it, camera work and all that stuff, editing. But you're taking more of a educational route. Is that correct?
In a way, but what I did education-wise was I studied film theory.
Okay.
At university here in Copenhagen, which is very much an academic education and not really a practical one. We had a few courses, and that was what I kind of exploited, and that was when I I knew that was the route I wanted to take. I wasn't sure before that. I've always had a big interest in film. So that was how I ended up there. But I haven't gone to like film school or something like that, and it has been a lot of learning by doing, because the amount of education we got on practical filmmaking was very scarce.
Okay, but I think that could it be correct to say that the background you're coming from metal, and that those more dramatic influences from the metal artwork and genres and so forth probably had a big influence in your short films as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the typical metal and horror fan.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the things just go hand in hand, don't they? I mean, it often happens, and I've been trying to push it in a little different direction, just not just have some serial killer stalking somebody in the woods in a music video.
Yeah.
But instead trying to put some layer of meaning into it as well.
One of those things is
I'm just really into the genre, to be honest.
Yeah. One of those things I've noticed that you're using quite a lot of quotes pre beginning of the music videos, and also the short film you did was inspired by a novel by H.C. Andersen, H.C. Andersen.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah. So can you tell me a bit about the inspiration from text, and like where do you find your inspirations for these concepts and short films?
I do think that literature is way more inspiring in terms of filmmaking than watching other films. As a general rule of thumb, I mean, obviously you can watch a film or a video and get inspired by some idea or some concept in there, but reading, activates the imagination more, in my opinion, and when I do get inspired, it's more often from reading a book than from watching a movie. And I mean, the quotes started as a joke in the Cephalic Carnage video. We start that out with a Madonna quote, just to kind of fuck with people, which was in line with the band and their kind of comedic approach to death metal. And it was just fun. It was a way to an attempt to kind of fuck with people in that the quote kind of makes sense. It says, "Poor is the man whose pleasure depends on the permission of another." It's from Madonna's one of her big hits, one of the sexy ones. I can't remember which one it is. "Justify My Love" or something. Okay, I'm not sure. And it kind of started there, and then I read somewhere that you should never open a film with a quote as a rule, and there I was like, okay, so we're definitely going to do that from now on. And I've put in a few here and there.
Yeah, but it kind of sets the tone. I think sets the mood for a lot of things.
Yeah, it works, right? It does something interesting to your expectation going into it. And sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's probably just stupid, but it's fun.
Most of the things you have on your website, I think, made sense in regards to what we were watching. Another thing I thought about was because you're saying it was mostly like a theoretical education you got, but for many of these shots you did, there was a video, can't remember the band right now, but there's 3 girls and they're kind of chopping each other up and biting each other and drinking each other's blood.
Crusher video.
Yeah. And there was some clever ways of cutting and, blocking in regards to those actors and the way you're like, because at one point there's a girl getting chopped on in like side of her neck with an axe. And in order to that not to look funny or like amateurish, lack of a better word, you got to really think about the angles and how you're doing it and how you're cutting between that. And so all that, was that more of an experience? You had to get experience practical with that, or was that also something you got like in your education and or was it like inspired from like a movie? Or just see how they do it, I'm just going to copy that, or how have you learned to do that?
Oh, not sure. I'm not sure. That entire shoot was pretty much improvised. So it was something we came up with on the spot. We had an axe that was cut off so we could kind of use it, and we were like, okay, let's find a place to use that. And it was just kind of, if it was a simple cut, it's just a cut when the strike hits.
Yeah.
That and having an actor, give in with the shoulder and then just go with it. But we had planned so much stuff for that video. We had so many ideas, and we'd storyboarded and so much. And then when we got on set, there was, I'm sorry to say, but our special effects supervisor just wasn't able to do what we've been told.
Okay.
So we had like an emergency meeting halfway through the first day, and we were just like, what the fuck are we gonna do? Because we can't do all the stuff we've planned.
Okay.
But we had a house that we were allowed to pretty much destroy. We had tons of blood, and we had 3 amazing actors, and we were just like, let's just, do one scene at a time, and then just see what we come up with. And then specifically in the editing, but also during the shoot, we kind of put a story through line in there of jealousy. There's like a 3-thing, a love triangle almost going on.
Yeah.
And that kind of developed with the actors, and thankfully their optimism, despite me having no idea what we were doing while we were shooting it. But I think, in the end, that's one of the videos I'm very fond of, actually, in retrospect, because of the way it was shot, and because it was such a panic moment, and we just had to figure something out, and that ended up being why it's shot so, it almost has that look of like an American indie film or something, where
Yes.
just
Yeah.
setting up a scene and then just having Frederick, my DOP, he was just following along as best as he could, and thankfully that's an environment where he thrives, and he did amazing work, in my opinion. But it ended up, there's scenes where the lighting is too much, and it kind of blurs out the walls and so on. And normally you would totally, steer clear of stuff like that. But I think it ended up like lending it a degree of realism that is juxtaposed to what's going on, because we have all these girls like bleeding everywhere without being, without reacting to it in any way.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of the twists. Yeah.
Yeah, but that kind of ended up being the theme of it. Violence is fun, but is it?
Yeah, exactly. That was the open question thing again. Yeah.
Those kind of, and that kind of went into the lyrics of the song in a way that made sense.
Totally. That's the whole thing for me when I'm watching this is just seeing their reactions to all these really violent actions, and they having a non-reaction or a completely opposite reaction of what you would expect, laughing instead of,
having fun.
Yeah, just having fun, doing really crazy stuff. Speaking of your short movie, The Sunken Konvent, about that, you didn't use any dialogue in that at all. And most of the sound was as if you've turned up like a room like really loud, and it was like very what do you call it? It felt very close to you. Everything felt very intimate in it. And you've also written on your website that you're working on several feature films, and I would advise anyone that hasn't seen that one to go watch it. It has some twists and a lot of like what the fuck is going on moments, but it's really cool made. Can you tell me about how that short film came about, and what's in store for, next for you with future films?
The idea with that short film was there was actually a couple of us, we were a couple of directors who were talking about doing short films and seeing if we could figure out some way of doing short films that were related to each other. So maybe we could put them together in an anthology or something like that. and we decided on the Hans Christian Andersen thing just because we were like, okay, what's more Danish than that guy? And then reading a lot of his fairy tales, just realizing that some of those are very, very dark, you know. And we ended up having 3 short films, one of which has never been released because it was very provocative.
Wow.
But I'm not gonna go into that because I didn't do it.
Okay, you saying that makes me kind of intrigued.
Times I think it's amazing, but I understand why the director decided not to release it.
Okay, shit.
But yeah, so we ended up with 2 short films, and we were like, okay, they were just gonna work as 2 short films, but ended up using that as a blueprint for a thing we're doing now. So we're actually doing the same thing now. There's 4 of us now doing an anthology film, which is also inspired by Hans Christian Andersen, but also very much works in the darker recesses of his work. And that's in post-production now. So hopefully there will be a film sometime next year. Just going into what you mentioned about it not having dialogue, which was actually not a conscious choice when writing it. It was just something when I finished writing it, I realized, oh shit, nobody says anything. But and then after that, I was like, okay, but if I want to get into fiction filmmaking, I should do dialogue because that's what people will always ask about. So what have you done that's dialogue driven? And doing all these music videos and that short film and a lot of commercials as well that don't feature dialogue, I was kind of like, oh shit, I need to do something. So the short film I've done now is completely dialogue driven.
Okay.
It's just again for me to experience that, to try it out and see if that's something I'm comfortable doing. So there's a new one coming out next year that will feature a lot of dialogue.
That sounds interesting.
It will be, hopefully.
So did you feel like you gained that experience you wanted from it?
From what? From the
dialogue, like a new approach?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the most important thing when doing this stuff is coming out wiser at the end of it. So now, particularly in post-production, as there always is, there's a ton of stuff I do differently. But I think I'm happy with how it turned out, and it gave me a ton of experience working that side of the directing chair, so to speak. So yeah, I'm very happy with it.
That sounds great. Just to round out, I just want to have a bit like an idea of like, how do you approach writing out a concept or a story? What's your do you have a methodology, or is it different for each project?
I think it varies a lot, because I've been working on very different types of labels and different types of bands. Some that are very used to doing music videos, like Napalm Death, for instance. I've done 2 for them, and they're very used to getting in pitches and see how that and pitching in their own ideas as well. And also working with the like I said, Job For A Cowboy just said, go ahead, do whatever. But I think my approach is always starting off with the track, just listening to the track a ton of times, and sometimes taking notes, thinking about, okay, so what would kind of suit the lyrics here, or what would musically make sense, but also just kind of trying to let go and see what pops up when you listen to it. One big thing for me is never to just follow the lyrics. I think that's like the worst thing you can do as a music video director is do something that just shows on screen what's being said in the song. Even for metal videos where a lot of times you can't even discern what's being said, it becomes extremely banal to me, because it's just, you're already being told this. It doesn't make any sense to tell it twice. And it kind of me as a viewer, it makes me feel like I'm being condescended to, because it became like I got that.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do it twice. So I always try to find a story that works on its own, but which will complement the music and be complemented by the music, and also has some sort of thematic link, at least, to the lyrics. The Job For A Cowboy song is about people having blind faith in the monetary system, and it's a criticism of Wall Street and banks and stuff like that, which is nowhere to be seen in the video.
No.
But we kind of twisted that into, okay, but blind faith is never a good thing, and I was kind of like, oh, but I have a thing with religion,
I was thinking there was more religious vibe to that.
It's very much about religion, and then we wanted to do the whole Lovecraft thing with the mythology and kind of put in a spin on it where it's a biblical tale. Basically, it's the tale of Abraham and Isaac, the binding of Isaac, but set in the world of Lovecraft, which in my opinion is or at least intention was to kind of paint a parallel between the two and say that, for me personally, Christianity is just as absurd as the idea of these huge monsters living at the bottom of the sea, just waiting to come up and eat people at some point.
Yeah.
So one mythology is as crazy as the other to me, and that was kind of how the two ended up being blended together. But it took the offset of the concept of blind faith, which is what the song was about, and for me that worked wonderfully. And I mean, I thankfully Johnny's vocals are so off the scale that you have no idea what he's saying when you're listening to it.
No, we were totally immersed in just the visuals.
Sorry?
Yeah, we were just totally immersed in the visuals when we saw that. We didn't even really notice the song. We were like,
I mean, people have told me that before, and it may sound weird, but that's a great compliment.
It is.
If people say that they were just immersed in the story, because it wouldn't work without the music. But if you're only focusing on a song, then the video isn't really doing its job, in my opinion, unless you're just talking about a music video as a promotional tool. Because I like the idea of taking two different mediums and putting them together and then creating something new, out of that. So that's what I hope to do when doing music videos, I guess.
So far, you've been doing a great job, and I can't wait to see the short film coming out next year. And guys, make sure to go to Michael Panduro's website. You just Google Michael Panduro and it will pop up, and see some of his work. It's amazing. Michael, thank you so much for hanging out with me this past 30 minutes. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I actually learned more than you think I did, so that was great. And guys, thank you for listening and watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thank you.